22, no job, no salary, still in college, and no idea how I'm going to make ends meet. But I've moved out of my home and I am living alone. Now, this is something that I know I'm not going to be forcing onto anybody. I'm just going to lay out the pros and the cons and why I'm doing it and how it's helped me in the past and all of that. I know a lot of people probably aren't going to take leaps like this because it's big and it's risk. So again, just take it with a grain of salt. And I'd like to draw a picture of what like my situation is right now living alone. So I live in my old home. My parents do live in Bangalore too. I live in Bangalore, and I have like my washing machine over here. I have a geyser, a fridge, an induction, and internet. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There's a mattress too, which I can sleep on, and rest all of it is just an empty house. There's obviously nobody in it. It's just me. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is just so that you get an idea of what to what extent I'm living alone. I know there are a lot of people who don't have any of these facilities and are living alone out there too. And my respect to you. If you're there by choice, then you have I will bow down to you. But if you're in that circumstances, if you're in that circumstance not by choice, then keep going. I really hope the world has something good for you in the future. So to begin things, let's talk about why I actually moved out. So the other day, I remember my mom had gone out. Juno's food, my dog's food, is usually made by my mom. And it takes this whole process, cut vegetables. There's a lot of different things in it. So it takes a minute. I mean, by a minute, I mean at least 30 to 40 minutes. My mom had gone out and I go into the fridge to look because Juno wants her food. It's time for her food. Now the fridge and her food is over. We usually make it and keep it in the fridge, but it is over. So immediately I call my mom and I'm like, what the hell? Why didn't you make her food? What is this? Food is your responsibility for her. And I cut the call and I was just thinking to myself, I finished all of the stuff I had to do for the day. I probably just have to read or do something that is productive, but nothing with an immediate deadline. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? You can just make it yourself. Why is it so hard? It's really not that hard. And that's when it hit me I've got too comfortable. The biggest problem with comfort is motivation. When you have a good meal, a good hot meal every day, when you have somebody that pays for the electricity, that pays for everything that's an essential or a necessity, you slide into the zone where everything just becomes convenient. Now, obviously, if you're able to attach yourself to a larger purpose, you can still push through, which is what I was able to do for the past year. But there were moments where I slacked off, right? I would go consistently with what I had to do for 2-3 months in a row. And then there'd be 3-4 days where I slacked off. Or in a month itself, when I'm really productive, there'd be a day where I just need a break, or the day where I just loaf around. And I don't want that. I want to be completely driven and completely into this. And I have felt that before. How did I feel that? So disclaimer, I have lived alone in the past. When I was around 18, I started living alone with my sister, but we had to manage all of the stuff on our own. We had our parents who covered all of the expenses, but we still had to decide where to spend what, because it's not they're going to keep tabs of everything that we did. And for me, my ego is too big to ask them again for stuff when I finish spending my money, which is something you'll notice throughout this video. In terms of ego with me, once I make a decision and giving a word, I do not go back on it. So that's something that was quite strong for me even then. But I know that there was this insane motivation that I would have. No matter how hard football will get, I would still show up. I would still go through the actions. So knowing that state and knowing that state that I was in for the past year living with my parents, it was not the same. So comfort was one of the first biggest things. Now, after comfort, there was the distance. So I live in Bangalore. My parents, the new house that we shifted into was a little bit more further away from the city. We live quite far away from the city as it is, but that was even more further. Now, I want to be in business. I am in the Silicon Valley of India, and it does not make any sense going away from it, at least not in this stage of my life. For them, it's more of peace, calm, and all of that. But for me, I want to be able to hustle right now. I want to be in the groove. I want to be in the city. I want to be in the center of all of it when it's happening. And it was like a no-brainer for me to not want to move away because of that. Now, the next thing is focus. It's easy to focus when you're on your own. And I know there are certain times when you think that having people around you shouldn't be able to, shouldn't cause too much disturbance. But there are tiny things, right? You can sort of create this atmosphere, but there are tiny things that you cannot change. And for somebody that has ADHD, the slightest of distractions is a problem. So that is another very big reason why I just had to step out of my home and just do things on my own. Now, the last reason why I moved out of my home was a risk tolerance attitude and a figure it out attitude. That's very important for business, right? Because you just need to be able to get into it. And as there'll be multiple problems that keep coming your way, you figure it out, you solve it, you think fast, you solve it, and you move on. And you take risks, you solve it, you move on. So that attitude, I to some extent had true to myself, because again, I moved out of my home when I was 14, and that was a risk and just figuring it out sort of attitude. But I needed to be even more stronger right now in this phase of my life. So like I said, I don't have a salary. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet for the next month in terms of the food that I have to pay for myself, or how I'm going to pay the electricity bill, or how I'm going to pay the internet bill. But it's just a risk, and I'll somehow have to figure it out. Now, that's in terms of why I actually did this. Now, let's talk about what I've learned so far. And again, I have done this bout before once where I've lived alone, so I have some idea. So this is a culmination of both of those time periods. So the first thing is hunger. Literal hunger can push you like no other thing can. When I mean hunger, I mean literally having just enough food to get by. There's no room for munchies. That's out of the picture completely. But it's weird. They say food, you need food for energy. You need to be able to keep going at it, and you need energy and food and all of that for that. But with not having enough food, right? I when I did this the last time, I obviously you just have just enough food. Right now, I've been eating curd rice for the past week, and that's what I've told my parents. That's what I've even told a lot of people, that I'm just gonna survive on the bare minimum, and that's what I'm doing. And it creates this weird burning desire that's very strong. It's almost I don't know how to explain it, but it's definitely insane for if you want to be driven and if you want to go at it. And the another thing about what I've learned is that unknown factor of you don't know how you're going to make ends meet tomorrow, so you have to get to work. Not yesterday, day before yesterday, I woke up in the morning, my alarm rang. Obviously, I'm a little bit do I have to do this? Can I sleep for a little bit longer? But then I'm asking myself, if you sleep for a little bit longer, are you going to be able to figure out how to pay rent next month? Or are you going to be able to figure out how to get food for yourself? No. So automatically, my mind is get up, get out, get to work. And it's again, these are all just things that help me go into that zone a little bit more. Now, the third thing that I've learned from this is no ego, no pride. A lot of times we have a lot of assumptions of who we are, the caste we're from, the community we belong to, the people we hang out with, and we're I'm too cool for that. I can't do sales stuff. Why? I don't want to come off desperate or all of that. And these are all just statements and things that we have made true to ourselves. But with business and with all of this, you need to have that shameless attitude. And that shameless attitude is created by stripping away everything and having nothing, which is what I am in right now. I have nothing. And because of that, I have nothing to lose, but also I have only gain. Every conversation is a gain. Every possibility of something happening is only a positive. So starting from ground zero, putting yourself in that situation where it's just a blank canvas, any stroke of paint is something. So again, it's just something that makes me be able to seize any opportunity that arises. And it just makes me feel very driven. Now, another thing is no one's coming, and nor should they. I've learned this in the past too while living alone. No matter how much you think everybody cares about you, your friends, your distant family, all of that, even your close family for that matter, nobody's coming to save you. when you're alone right now, when you're hungry, when you want food, when you need to figure out how to pay stuff, when you need to figure out like whether you can eat outside or with you go out with your friends and the bill comes and you have to pay for it. No one's come and help you. No matter how better off anybody is doing, nobody's coming, and nor should they. Expecting that is also a problem. So that's something that I learned in my first time around when I was living alone, where I would expect this sort of sympathy. I would expect people to feel like, oh, poor, like, through, like, let's help him out. Or yeah, I would see all my friends and they would have, like, they would go home to their families and their parents. And I was like, oh, that's so, like, I am so unfortunate. Like, I am like living alone over here. My life is so sad. All that bullshit. I did a lot of that the first time around when I was living alone. This time around, I flipped the mindset into more of a I have everything sort of mentality. Like I am abundant. I have all the resources that I require. I have all like everything that I could possibly need to get or do what I want to do. And I'm already there in a lot of ways, right? Like the mentality is there. For me, I don't care too much about like the clothes or the car or any of that stuff. Sure, I'd like to enjoy it, but I don't. It's not something that I think about a lot. So just being so dialed into knowing that I'm already there is another thing that I've changed from the previous time, and it's very important to not feel this sort of pity or this sorrow for yourself that, oh yeah, so sad. Now, last thing that I've learned from the past time, the past experience of living alone and this time is, I'll show you a live example of what I mean. Like, wait, I'm just going to stop talking. You hear that? Complete silence. There is no noise at all. And I think there was a lizard that chirped. But other than that, there's no noise. There is no, like, nothing. It is just me and my thoughts and nobody. So we fear we fear this, like being alone and all of this. But I am from the frame of mind where it's absolutely essential. Simply because you look at like all of the geniuses in the past, and there's so much data to prove that people that actually spend time with their thoughts, philosophers, businessmen, all of them, when they actually spend time with their thoughts and their loneliness, they sort of develop this deeper level of thinking. And it's true. Like the other day, I was working on this painting stuff that we've been working on for like a lead gen sort of thing that we're doing. I'm just sitting and painting. I've cut out the music. I've cut out anything like any audio, nothing. It's just me and the painting. And then there's all of these thoughts that come up. There's all of these questions. There are all of these problems. Like, why are you feeling this? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And it's really helpful in the sense that we're so filled with information in today's age with dopamine hits that come so often, that when we have nothing, when we have like a complete empty space and it's just us and our thoughts, it just changes the game. Like there's so many deeper level things that you can ask yourself and think about. And it's scary, but it's definitely something that's needed, especially in today's age. Now, I'm not going to lie, there are certain sad parts too to this whole experience. It's not all fun and games. One of the sad things is, so I moved out of my home when I was 14 first, right? I moved out because I wanted to play football. So my parents and we lived in China, and I moved back from China to India in the hopes of becoming a footballer. Again, what stings sometimes is to know that these are all decisions that I'm making for myself. I don't know, maybe I'm too full of myself, or I don't know what it is exactly, but it's this weird feeling where I feel sad for like my family or like my girlfriend, because again, moving out of home, doing all of this, sacrificing all of that time is my decision. I am happy that I'm doing it for myself, but knowing that they will, like my parents did not ask to not have a normal parenting life, right? You don't expect your kids to move out when they're 14. My sister also moved out when she was around 17 or 18. I'm not too sure, but she also moved out very young. And you don't expect these sort of things. You expect your kids to grow up with you, have a normal life so you can mold them, you can see them grow, you can experience the whole thing. And to some extent, I feel like I stole that from them. And they came back from China last year so that we could be closer again. And then here I am again, just moving out because I want to do my own thing. So somewhere that does sting. I was talking to my girlfriend about it the other day after I spoke to my parents about this whole thing that I want to do. And I did tear up, right? It got a little emotional because I'm not going to lie, it does sting sometimes. But in retrospect, do I regret coming back when I was 14, coming back to India when I was 14 and trying to become a footballer? Not one bit. So I don't know. These are all just preconceived notions that we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just telling myself that I'm going to do it for the greater good of this family and of mankind or whatever. And yeah, like that's why I'm doing this, and that's my justification to it. It's sad, but that's one of like probably one of the like saddest part of the whole thing. But again, it's not like I'm living in that pity or that sorrow. It's what has to be done. It had to happen at some point. I would rather have me choose to do it than it happen upon us, like by not by choice. Like I said, the people that have ended up in a situation like this, not by choice, keep going. I really hope things work out for you. I really, really, really genuinely do hope things work out for you. So that's about it, guys, for this video. I know I was supposed to speak about sales stuff, but seeing the views of the last video, it's quite disappointing that not a lot of you, like people, are thinking about sales. It's such an important skill. And I was quite surprised, to be honest. But yeah, that's the end of this video. I know this video structure was very shit. The format, the way I've delivered it was horrible. This is the third time I'm recording this video because of the fuck ups again, because the whole setup is different. There are certain things that I forget to do, like I did in the beginning. And this is the third time that I'm recording it. So that's why if I seem a little tired also, it's probably because of that. But hopefully the videos keep getting better like this, or in any way how. And yeah, I just hope you guys gain some value from this, if any. Then go ahead and like this button and share it to that one friend that's living alone. Because I think the pity thing is definitely one thing that they could definitely use. And I know for a fact a lot of people feel it, the self-pity thing. So share it with them. Go ahead and hit this like video so that maybe it reaches some of them also. But that's the end of this video, guys. And until next video, goodbye.